Welcome back to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really pleased to have with me once again James Anderson. He's the CEO of NuLegacy Gold. Now, I should correct myself. I had mentioned that their property, their gold target, is located on the Carlin Trend. No, the Carlin Trend was perhaps the first of the major prolific gold trends discovered in Nevada, but there's also the Cortez Trend, which is where NuLegacy's Iceberg project is located. And that is another very prolific trend also, and NuLegacy is exploring what could be the fourth major deposit along that trend. There's three that have been outlined so far. And so James is very optimistic about the prospects of NuLegacy, and rightfully so, because to the north there is the Pipeline deposit, which has some 21 million ounces grading 2.2 grams per ton. Then trending a little to the southeast, there is Cortez Hills with 15 million ounces grading 4.1 grams per ton. And then Barrick is drilling the Gold Rush target just north of the Iceberg, and a long trend. And that is some 10 million ounces grading 10.2 grams per ton. Those are amazingly high-grade numbers for that large number of ounces of gold. So Iceberg is right along the line, and so James has a lot of reasons, and there's some good results that have come forth from early exploration efforts. So thank you very much for joining us again today, James, and I hope you can give us some insight here as to how things are going and what the prospects are for your company.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jay, for having me on again. Just further to some of your comments, just to give your listeners some idea about the Carlin Trend and the Cortez Trend and what all that means. We're operating in the Cortez Trend in Nevada, which is really Barrick gold mining country, but all of the major deposits in this area are Carlin-style deposits. Carlin-type gold mineralization has only been identified in 4 different places on the planet, but in Nevada, these very large Carlin-type deposits are exploited by some of the major gold mining companies, and the deposits are very large. 85% of U.S. gold production comes from Nevada, and 85% of Nevada gold production comes from these Carlin deposits. So they're very large, very important deposits.
Yeah, I would like you to give our listeners a sense of the economic value. I mean, we're looking, I should mention to our listeners that you trade in Toronto under the symbol NUG, and you can buy it down here in the U.S. under the symbol NULGF. There's about 289 million shares outstanding, and I looked at the price earlier today. It was around 20 cents. It may have ticked up a little bit since then because the gold shares are doing well, but that gives you a market cap around $60 million. Now, help us understand, James, and of course we're not saying anything is a foregone conclusion because we know that this is a risky business. There's always, you never know what you've got until you've done extensive drilling and all the science behind it and to determine whether it's economic to mine it and all that. There's lots and lots of work to be done. These are early days, but you do have some good sniffs at something extraordinary, potentially. So with a 60 million market cap, can you put that in some sort of a context with respect to some of those other big elephant-sized gold deposits to the northwest of you?
Right. So I think when you put it into a context like that, Jay, all of the junior mining companies will always want to tell you that they're right beside very large, very important deposits and that they might have one similar to that. I think that the Cortez Trend is as good a place as any place on the planet to look for and discover a gold deposit. And I'll just give your listeners a couple of statistics to kind of back that up. Barrick mines over 1 million ounces of gold per year from their operations in the Cortez Trend, principally from Pipeline and Cortez Hills. There's a 5-mile conveyor belt joining those two deposits. So just to give you an illustration of just the robust nature of these very large deposits and how many people work at them. But it's 1 million ounces of gold that they mine per year. So that is 20% of the production of the largest gold mining company in the world. The production comes right from this one area. So I think that's one illustration. Another illustration is Barrick's all-in sustaining cost for last year from this operation was $602. So if they're selling gold at $1,200, it's $600 million worth of profit that they get from that. So cash flow, and I don't have a specific cash flow number from Barrick, but I'm going to say it's $800 million that they got last year from cash flow from this operation. And when you look at Barrick's overall financial picture, they make an enormous amount of money in Nevada and in Cortez, and also at their Gold Strike operation to the north in the Carlin Trend proper. If you look at all of the other places that they go everywhere else in the world, they don't make the kind of money that they do here, and certainly not in the type of politically safe jurisdiction that Nevada is.
Mm-hmm. Well, those are some pretty robust numbers. I mean, sort of mine life. Well, you have $800 million a year, and that compares to your current market cap, as I mentioned, under $60 million US. But, of course, as I say, lots of work to be done yet. And but it just I thanks for that, James, because I think that helps to put in perspective what might be if things pan out. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the evidence and the progress that you've made on your project so far that gives you hope that something big may be in the offing.
Right. Well, just to speak to some of the challenges when you're exploring these Carlin-type deposits, that they are a very difficult geological beast to explore. You'll drill holes and come up with excellent grade, and then you step away from that, and the grade peters out. But then you step out again, and the grade pops up again. They are amoeba-like in their shape, so they're very difficult to explore. But as evidenced by some of the statistics that I just gave you a minute ago, the prize can be enormous. What we've outlined so far at Iceberg is a near-surface oxide deposit. It's about 10,000 feet in length, anywhere between 800 and 1,000 feet wide. We've had some excellent results. Frankly, the last bit of results that we announced a month ago or so were a little bit mediocre, and people were mildly disappointed in that. But in this type of exploration with this type of deposit, you have to be very persistent and consistent in your exploration approach, and I think we're continuing to do that. And your listeners will be able to see additional drill results before the end of the month.
All right, and I saw some reference in I think it was an October press release that you talked about a deep hole, 2,500 plus foot core hole, as a step out from the Avocado hole number 2, I guess it is. So what can you tell us about the exploration plans throughout the rest of this year and this deep hole, and what do you expect to gain? What sort of geological information or project information do you expect to gain from a hole like that, which has to be a very expensive hole, I would think?
It is. Okay, so let me just back up a little bit for your readers and listeners. So first of all, I was talking about the Iceberg deposit. The Iceberg deposit is one part of a very large land package that we've got in the Cortez Trend. So it's 38 square miles that we're exploring there, and there is no other junior that has anywhere near that size of claim block in this part of the world. So that's one of the things that makes NuLegacy very unique. The Iceberg deposit, where we've been exploring, that's near surface and oxidized, but we made a major new discovery about 2 months ago at a place about 1.5 miles north of Iceberg called Avocado. And it's called Avocado because that's the shape of a geophysical signature that we have had at that area for some time. Now, we didn't want to spend too much money during the downturn chasing different geophysical and geochemical anomalies along the property, but we drilled a couple holes this year into Avocado. One of them got quite an extraordinary result. It's 200 meters in a drill hole, 200 meters worth of quarter-gram gold mineralization. Now, the quarter-gram is quite low grade, and it's fairly deep. So that in and of itself, we're not promoting as being an economic interval. However, the implications of finding that much continuous gold mineralization in a brand new area where we're just drilling our second, third, and fourth drill holes out there, that's what's very exciting. It's at the same stratigraphic horizon and at roughly the same depth as Barrick's Gold Rush deposit, which is just across the valley from us, which contains 10 million ounces of gold at a very high grade, 10 grams per ton. Very, very similar geological setting, So the rationale for us continuing to explore there is that we feel very strongly that we're on the outskirts, on the edge of another big Carlin-type deposit here, which would make 2 Carlin deposits that we've discovered on this big property.
Very exciting. Is there some thought that it might be the same system or the same geological connection, the same deposit connection with Barrick, or that's? I guess you just don't know that. But is there any idea in terms of the structure about that? Is it that your geologists they have any ideas about that?
Well, all of these deposits seem to be structurally controlled. They're more on echelon and separated by about a 5-mile separation, each one of them. Right. So I don't think necessarily that this deposit will be exactly connected with Barrick's deposits, but neither are those deposits connected with one another. So they happen in groups and in pods, and at least where we're working right now, seemingly in a line northwest to southeast. So, and the good Lord didn't put these things in a straight line. If He did, that would be very, very easy to explore and discover. So it's not quite that easy, but certainly at the same stratigraphic horizon. So in the very same rock types that the other giant deposits are in this area, that's where we're getting our gold. And I think that's, from a geological perspective, that's very exciting, and that's the important part, and that's what we're trying to follow up on. One more comment too, Jay, because you were asking about the deep core hole. So yes. We drilled 2 reverse circulation holes into this area. They're a little cheaper to do, and when we're first starting to explore a new area, that's certainly what we want to do. But at this stage, we want to drill a core hole to give us better understanding of the lithological units through this area. It's going to be a deep hole because we want to make sure that we go all the way through this geophysical target. And frankly, despite the fact that we got 200 meters worth of gold mineralization in avocado hole number 2, we're not completely confident that we got all the way through the geophysical target. So we want to make sure that we get deep enough. Most of these deposits are layered. So you'll have one horizon, and then a little deeper, another horizon of gold mineralization, and another horizon of gold mineralization. That's certainly the case both at Pipeline, but even more so at Cortez Hills, another one of these big deposits that's just down the block from us.
So I guess you're not necessarily, investors and listeners shouldn't be looking for a sort of a glory hole necessarily. What you're doing is drilling for structure to a great extent to help your understanding, your geological understanding of what Mother Nature has given you there.
I think that there will be more opportunity to really expand this new deposit and to have much better grade, let's say in some of our drilling in the spring. I wouldn't necessarily hold my hat that we're going to have much better grade with the hole that we're drilling right now. What we wanted to do is to drill the core hole very close to the RC hole that we just completed so that we would be able to compare the two and make sure that we understand the rocks and the oxidation levels in both of those holes and be able to compare and contrast. Conversely, you just never know with grade in these Carlin deposits. Grade changes very, very quickly. So we might end up being 50 meters away from the RC hole. Could the grade change dramatically? Yes, it actually could, and we certainly see evidence of that at Iceberg and the rest of these deposits.
I noticed that you just raised $4.5 million, and that was a part of, I think, maybe twice that amount you were planning to raise. But I think you're waiting to see what comes out of this deep hole before you raise some more money, perhaps, or you want to stop and reflect on what you learned from that deep hole to set up your drill program, maybe for next year or to start of next year. Do I have that right?
Yes, more or less. But we announced the private placement. We were able to close about half of it. And in the meantime, gold and gold stocks have continued to go south, and ours is not. Ours has not been different than that. So we closed that part of the private placement, but that adds to a pretty robust treasury that we've got. We've currently got about 17 million Canadian dollars, which equates to about $12.5 million US dollars. NuLegacy is in the best financial shape that it has ever been in. We own 100% of this project now, having earned our interest and then swapped some shares for Barrick's 30% interest earlier in the year. So we own 100% of it, $12.5 million in the treasury. Our list of supportive shareholders includes Oceana Gold, which is our largest shareholder, Barrick, and the Tocqueville Gold Fund from New York. They've been extremely supportive as well. So our list of supportive shareholders is very strong, 100% of the project, and a very strong treasury, so that we can begin to explore the property even more dramatically in March of next year.
All right. Maybe in summary then, what would you say the single most important reason people should maybe add a few of your shares to their portfolio? It's the prospects of hitting something really, really significant. And I mean, how would you say? Somebody said, "Hey, Anderson, why should I? You're not making any money. Why should I put some?
Right.
Why should I? Yeah.
Why should anyone speculate in NuLegacy?
Yeah. Right.
Because we've got a 38 square mile land package in the best place to find a gold deposit anywhere on the planet, and we've got lots of good drill results. We don't quite know how big these deposits might be just yet, but in the neighborhood there are 10 and 20 million ounce deposits, which are the cornerstone of Barrick's exploration success in Nevada.
No, I would think also that in my way of thinking, a company like Oceana obviously sees something potentially very big there. They wouldn't be putting their money in there as well. So, James, I want to thank you very much. It's very interesting story for sure, and thank you very much, and we hope to keep up with you in the future with the progress that you're making there.
Yeah, it's always nice talking to you, Jay. Thanks for the opportunity.